Hi, today I'm going to show you how to create a photo meme in Photoshop. In this video, you will learn how to take a stock meme image and transform it by adding and styling text, insert another image into the stock image. If you are using another image editor like GIMP, you may follow the same process with minor tool name variations. The Layer Blending Options tool does not exist in GIMP, but the workaround is to use the Path from Text tool to create the text borders. In the process of creating this meme image, you will learn the following skills: working with layers, stylizing layers, working with selection areas, working with the transform tool to adjust layer size and positioning, resizing the image for the web, saving the finished image. So let's get started. I've got Photoshop opened up already, and the first thing you need to do is open the image in Photoshop that you want to work on. And this goes for any image that you want to edit in Photoshop. A lot of times when I help people, they have a hard time getting the image into Photoshop because the default, normally when they download an image from the net and click on it, it'll open up in another program rather than Photoshop. So just be sure to open everything up in Photoshop. So the image I chose to work on today is the distracted boyfriend meme. Very popular image. I think it won the best meme of the year, the Shorty Award for that. So what I want to do is I want to probably add some text. You could just modify this image just by adding text, but I'm going to go a step further and add replacement images for the heads of the two women. So let's start with the text. So once I have this opened up, you'll see on the left hand side there are a number of tools that I have, and based on what you select, the bar at the top will change to match the tool selection. So I'm going to choose my text tool, and here I'm going to stick with the traditional font for memes. So I'll go down to Impact, and maybe I'll make sure. Let's see. Well, let's see how big this is. This image in Photoshop, you'll notice even though it's filling my screen like it's at full size, it's actually only at 50%. So this is a very large image. Over here in the navigator, you can see it's at 50%. So I'll need a very large font size in order to do this. So first I'll click in here, and you'll see that now I have a blinking cursor, and so I can start typing in text. So maybe I'm going to say, "This is me." When you're in the text tool and you see the cursor, you can highlight if you want to change something. So if I want a larger size, I can adjust that. This looks pretty good for my purposes. So at this time I'm just going to click the little check up here to say it's okay. And I might want to reposition this. So I'm going to go up here to the Move tool, which looks a little bit like a crosshair or a compass. And once you select that, whatever layer you happen to be on, well, you can move that independently from the rest of the image. You can tell what layer you are currently focused on over here in the Layers palette on the right. And that looks like a good positioning for this text. It is a little bit hard to see though. You'll notice that it's kind of blending in a little bit with his shirt. Now I could go larger, but I'll stick with this for now. And what I'm going to do is add some sort of shading on the text itself. So I'm going to just double click on the text layer here, me, and you can do this with any layer. You can add these options to any layer. So there's blending options in your layer style, and you can play around with some of these and see what it is that you would like to do. We can get a preview here. I might want to use the stroke tool, and what that is doing, as you can see in the preview, is it's adding an outline to the text. Right now I have it selected inside, but I'm going to do outside because I want the full text, but I just want to add an outline to it so that it stands out a little more. And so these are the number of pixels that the black outline will be. So I can choose what makes sense to me. I can lower the opacity if I don't want it quite as distinct. There's a lot of options in Photoshop once you start playing around, and in GIMP too. It's enough to keep you very occupied. So that looks okay. I might want to put in a slight amount of drop shadow. Probably not needed in this case, but maybe I'll just add a little bit just to give it a hint of separation from the background image. Not much. That looks okay. And those are very minor distinctions. So I have my text in here, and if at any time you want to go back and change any of these, you can always remove them. I mean, some people, when they add text to a meme image, they'll just do a big white box and then type their text in black. You can do that as well. This just gives us the opportunity to show some of these extra tools that may come in handy on down the road. So now I want to place a couple replacement heads in here for the two women. So just like with the first image, I need to open them up in Photoshop. And so I'm going to use the from the Star Wars The Last Jedi, the Volpitex, the crystalline fox, and I'm going to choose just a regular rectangular marquee tool. And this will allow me to select the area that I want to copy. So here I'm just going to drag out a selection and do that. Go up to Edit and Copy. All of your normal shortcuts will work as well. Control C. And then I'll come back to my distracted boyfriend image, and then I'll paste it in. So it plops it right there in the center. I'll use the Move tool to move this over about near her head. I'm obviously going to need to resize this. So as an internet image, this image here is pretty small, whereas the stock photo has higher resolution. So I'll need to expand this layer. You can see here this is now called layer 1. And for my purposes, I'm going to use the transform tool. You can use free transform. It allows you to do all of what's inside the transform tool, but it's easier if you're just starting out to just use transform and then scale. So here we see we have little dots now where you can click and drag to expand the image. Now, unlike, say, if you insert images in Word, Photoshop by default allows you to skew the image. In other words, it's changing the aspect ratio. The way that you lock it into place is you hold down the Shift key while you're dragging, and that locks the height and width so it's the same ratio. So maybe I want something about this size. I'll just let go. I'll click on the little check box up here. You can hit the Enter key or Return key if you want. So I'll move it to be about over her head. Obviously that's not perfect, but that's okay. it's a meme. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're not going for impersonating reality here. So I'm going to make this a little larger, and again position it. That seems pretty good. Now we can clean this image up a little bit. The one thing that we could use is the eraser tool. And just like it sounds, the eraser tool is going to erase information from the image. And in this case, I'll zoom in a little here. So here I'm using the navigator over here on the right to zoom in. And I need to make a much larger brush. So let's see. Yeah, that's a good size. So I'm going to use the eraser tool now, and I'm just holding it down. Maybe I want the flow to be more like an airbrush, so a little gentle. Okay. And so I'm getting rid of the parts of the inserted image that I don't want. And obviously you could take as much time as you want to do this. I'm actually going to make this a soft round to give it even more of an airbrush-like quality. Because what that does is it prevents the hard line of erasure. Not that it really matters in an image like this, but I don't. It's an opportunity to discuss, how you might make it a little more photorealistic. Now, obviously, her head is going to be back there. So let's see. You'll notice that it is not affecting anything in the background image. That's because in Photoshop, whatever layer you have selected is the only layer that your tool is going to take action on. And that's the real power of Photoshop and other image editors like this. So I might leave some of this because of her hair right there. Maybe I'll fade that out a little more. I mean, obviously it's not going to be completely perfect, but in my opinion it's better than just a square of pasted in image. So if I'm happy with that, I'll click back on the move tool and maybe adjust accordingly. Okay, so now for her head replacement, I want to have something that has a similar expression, and fortunately the Porg from The Last Jedi has a nice expression that we can use. Now here I don't have to really do a selection tool because when I found this image it was already on a transparent background, and you can tell that because of this checkerboard that appears. That's the same in GIMP as well. If it's a transparent background, you'll see the checkerboard is there. And this one, it appears to have been pre-made for people to use for memes. So I'm just going to do a select all, go to edit and copy, go back to my original image, and this time I'm just going to Control V to paste it in. So it plops it right there in the middle, just like with the first one. And I'll place it somewhere over here. Obviously I'm going to resize this. So I'll go back to edit, and I'll do transform, scale, in order to resize. And here I'll just pick a corner and hold the shift key down. Remember to do that. And let's see how this looks. We can always go back and adjust. So that's not bad, actually. Now if I wanted to, I could use the transform tool to do some other things. You noticed under transform there's also things like rotate. And rotate might be useful if we want to somewhat humorously angle our Porg's head. And then maybe lower it down like that. Now I could erase the wings if we didn't want that, but I think that's fine. Likewise, maybe we want to, I'm going to select my Volpatek's head over here, and then do a rotate, maybe have her looking that way slightly. Do a little adjustment. If you're finding you're having trouble either with a trackpad or even with your mouse adjusting, while you have the Move tool selected, you can actually use the keyboard arrows to do a much better, a more nuanced job of moving your selected layer. So just a little tip. Okay, well that looks pretty good, I think. So the one thing that we would want to do is perhaps save this image. Now, if you want to keep your layers to go back and work on it later, or maybe you plan to reuse this meme stock image multiple times, which, that's part of our discussion in the class. We've been reading about memes and how variation is part of what makes it a meme and not just something that's a viral image. So if I want to save it in that format with the layers intact, generally what you're going to want to do is a save as, and do this as a Photoshop file. So by default that's what comes up. Maybe I want to rename this into something like Distracted Boyfriend. And the layers is already checked here, so that's fine, and I'll click Save. It's going to ask me if I want to maximize compatibility. Sure, that's always a good thing. So I have it saved so that way I can go back and edit these layers later if I want to. Before we save this to post on the internet though, I'm going to resize this. Now the difference between image size and canvas size is that image size affects everything, all of the layers that are in the image, whereas canvas size independently sizes your background. And in this case, we definitely want the image, the whole image resized as is. So you might wonder, why would you want to do canvas size? Well, let's say you wanted to, let's say this image was cropped and you wanted to add on some extra width or height. Canvas size will allow you to do that without changing the size of the actual image layer. So I'm going to do image size, and for most things that you're posting on the web like this, I wouldn't probably make it much larger than 1200 pixels. In fact, I'm probably just going to do 900 for this one. And the image size by default usually has the aspect ratio locked, so you don't have to worry about it skewing, just reducing the size of the height and not the width. So in this case, the width is a larger number, so I'm going to do that at 900, and I'll click OK. And then I'm going to save this again as something more suitable for posting on the web. So in this case, because it's an image that has a picture in the background that has millions of colors, I'll probably use a JPEG as the format, because that provides a decent enough image quality while maintaining millions of colors. With other types of images that have fewer colors, you could use a GIF or PNG. You can do PNGs as lossless files, meaning it's not going to throw out any information, but those tend to get a little large for something that you're just posting as a humorous meme. So I'm going to do JPEG, and I should receive some options after this. So I'll do Distracted Boyfriend. I'm going to call this example. Save. And so here's your JPEG options. So the smaller the file, the lesser the image quality. But it also means that, obviously when you're posting something, it's going to be a fairly large file. Perceptually, most images you can get away with either high rather than maximum, because there's almost, with an image like this, there really is no reason that you need to have it at maximum. And I'm going to leave this as optimized. So now it's saved. This is the 100% size. And my original that I saved as a Photoshop previously will still be at the full size. So when I close this, I don't want to save this Photoshop because I did a save as, remember. So when I close this one, I want to say no to saving the changes, because I think I'd rather keep it at the maximum resolution to start with, just in case, hey, maybe 4K screens become by default on everyone's devices. So maybe I want to, make them larger after that. But so I'll just say no on that. And then I can close the rest of these because I don't need them anymore. And that's it. That's all there is to it, really. But you can, the principles that you worked with layers, working with layers and text, you can use for anything in Photoshop. So I hope you got something out of this video, and I'll see you next time.